Have a 2019 Toyota Highlander. Gonna do front brake pads and rotors. So what you need to do is jack it up, support properly, and remove the front tires. The lug nuts are 21 millimeter. Alright, so now that you got the tires off, you need to remove the caliper. The caliper is held on with two 14 millimeter bolts. You need to take them out. These are your caliper bolts. Then you get yourself a little flat blade screwdriver, medium size, and you can stick it in there and pry the caliper up. And then you can pry the caliper from the bottom also. So what you need to do, get yourself a flat blade, stick it in there, go like that. Then go to the bottom, do the same thing, bring it up. And then grab it, pick it up, and place it over here off to the side. Or you get a S-hook, hang it from your spring. Okay, so. Alright, you got your caliper off. What you need to do is inspect your boots and inspect the boots, see if they're torn or they're wet if they got any fluid coming out of them. If they're torn or got fluid coming out, then you need to replace the caliper assembly. And you can go ahead and get the caliper bracket with it. Okay? And also what you want to do is inspect your brake hose. Make sure it doesn't have any leaks or any cracks in it. If it does, then you need to replace that also. So now here we are at the caliper bracket. Your pads, you got some retainers. Take these out and save them, and just in case you lose one or you don't get them with your kit, okay? So on the back side, you have two bolts. These are 17 millimeter right here and there, okay? One here and one there. See it? Right here. So you need to remove those two bolts. Here's your caliper bracket bolts. You need to remove those. Here's your caliper bracket. And you need to remove the brake pads that are in it. Get them out. These came out pretty easy. The other side were frozen in there with rust. So now all you need to do is go ahead and remove the hardware, abundant clips, off the brackets. When you get them both sides out, you need to look underneath. See underneath them, it's all rusty. You need to get that rust out of there, because what happens, they rust and the rust expands and it squeezes on the brake pads and makes them get stuck inside there so they don't move freely, and then you get uneven brake wear. Okay. So also you need to remove your rotor. If your rotor's frozen on there, then you need to put a lug nut on it and then hit the base of the rotor with a mini sledge, or even the back side, or even the front side if you're replacing it. So once you get them off, then you need to inspect your hub. You need to inspect the hub, make sure it's clean and no rust. Rust, like I said, it expands and creates a high spot. When it does have a high spot, then it causes the rotor to not be true, so then the rotor will wobble when it's going down the road, and then when you hit the brakes, the pad squeezes on it, and then the caliper goes like that, and it also causes the front end to give it a little shimmy. Okay, so make sure this is nice and clean. I'll use a die grinder, angle die grinder with a disc on it. Clean it up best I can. And also the ones for the lug nuts. Get them down there, clean up lug nuts with the wheel studs. Okay, and I'll go around and clean it up. So after you got these calipers brackets all cleaned up, you need to paint that surface you got. Okay, and then also take out your slide pins, clean them up, and put a little bit of fresh Seal Glide inside there. Do not pack it full of Seal Glide. You won't be able to compress it because of the pin. Okay, so just put them on the pin and work them in there back and forth. All right. All right, the hub is all nice and clean. Not too bad with rust because it had NICs on from prior brake jobs. So go ahead and put a light film of NICs on it before you put your rotor on. And now for your caliper bracket. Got it cleaned up. Got the rust out of there. So now what I'll do is I'll paint them. Then I'll get my caliper slide pins. I'll clean them up. And to get the rust out of this part of it, I'll just scratch it with my hacksaw blade. And also to clean that groove up. Okay? I use hacksaw blade. Alright, I got them cleaned up inside there. Hacksaw blade works pretty good. So now, got your Seal Glide. Rub it in there. Put a little bit in there. And then go ahead, put it in there. Turn it and work it. I want to make sure I get some on that boot around that sealing point because that's what helps keeps the water and dirt out. Okay. This one's always a little bit harder because that little bushing swells up over time. So now I got to twist it with two hands and push it in. Okay. All right. So there I got some paint on my brackets. Got my slide pins in there. I use a pair of pliers to help push it in, twist it and push. Make sure you got some lube on those boots. Now what you gotta do is wait for the paint to dry. Then you can put your hardware bundle clips inside there. All right, push your hardware in there like that. Make sure they're all the way installed, no gaps. Notice how the springs, this is the spring here on the ends, right there, sticking out. They're not on the inside, okay? And you got your brake pads, anti-rattle clips. Make sure you install those properly. Okay, you have your rotor on there. Is underneath it. I used a pair of vice grips. I've just barely put it on there just to help hold it from sliding off. You keep that rotor straight. All right, just so you know. Now I got the caliper bracket, got the bolts snugged up, and then I torqued them to 77 foot-pounds. All right, so next I push my pistons back into my caliper. I use my ratchet tool. But if you don't have one, a big C-clamp and an old pad. Put it on there and tighten it up, and it'll push those pistons right in. Okay? Just make sure you don't have this pinched. Restrict the flow. All right? So now what we gotta do is get our brake pads over here and install them. Make sure you install them with the anti-rattle clips on the top, because you don't want them being on the bottom, being smashed all the time from stopping. Okay? All right, because this is what I do. Let's see. Go here. Get that back out. I'll take the pad. See, that's a spring. All right. Get it. Put that in there. Push that spring in there. Make sure you get your pads all the way bottomed out. And go ahead and get the top one in there. Push against that spring. Pushing against it towards the center to your left. And push it in there. And make sure the anti-rattle clip goes beneath your hardware. Push it all the way in. And that's exactly what you do on the inside. Get it in there on the bottom, and then boop, push the top in. Get yourself a light so you can see what you're doing. All right, before you put your caliper on, go ahead and put your pad separator springs on. And when you're putting your caliper on, you want to squeeze it together so you can get your caliper over the pads, okay? Make sure when you push the top in that clip, anti-rattle clip, goes underneath there and it slides in there. If you push it in there and it goes like this, you know, when you push it in, it goes like that, that's not in there correctly. Okay, so it has to go underneath the metal shiny clip, okay? Now you can go ahead and put your caliper on. Make sure you get your boots, your pins out of the way so the caliper goes on easily. You just got to push them in, okay? Then get your bolts on there and get them started. And then you want to torque those to 25 foot-pounds. Okay. I was having a hard time putting my caliper on. That's because I got my slide pins backwards. The one with the grommet on it goes on the bottom, my mistake. And the plain one goes on the top because this one is shorter than that one. So I couldn't get my caliper on all the way. As this hole is deeper than this one. This one's shallower, that takes a shorter pin. Okay? My mistake. The one with the grommet goes on the bottom. I was somehow thinking about these pins, clips. So the anti-rattle clips go on the top. Okay, we're all set. Remember, everything has to be cleaned before you put your lube on. Got your INCs underneath the rotors, caliper bracket, bolts are 77 foot-pounds. Got your pads in there. Make sure you get the anti-rattle clips on the top. Got your caliper on there. Torque your bolts to 22 foot-pounds. Make sure your slide pins, the bottom one's on with the grommet. The bushing goes on the bottom, okay? And make sure this line is not twisted or anything. If it's twisted, then you need to remove it and flip your rotor around, okay? This one looks twisted. I'll double check it, make sure it's not. Okay, I flipped it around and it's way better. See? If I didn't tell you about that, it would have been flipped around. Okay, so now I'm done. Now you do the other side exactly the same way you did this side, okay? Then when you get that done, you need to put the tires on and torque them to 90 foot-pounds, lower down to the ground, go inside the vehicle, start it up, push the pedal to the floor a couple times. That way you're pushing the pistons into the pads, taking up that excess gap. So that way when you do apply the brakes, you will have brakes, okay? Because if you do not do that, you will not have brakes until you pump it up a couple times. And then by that time, you hit the car in front of you, hit your workbench, drove out the door or wherever. So make sure you pump up the brakes before you put it in drive or reverse, okay? And then go inside underneath your hood and double check your brake fluid level and top it off as needed. And that will complete your brake job. And hopefully I helped you out with this video, and hopefully you can help me out by subscribing to me. Okay? So I just gave you some scenarios in case I did stuff backwards and we caught it. Okay? So never force anything. If it doesn't look right, double check it. Okay? All right, so good luck and have fun.